Hi, I'm Stephanie Dyer, and this is Escape Into a Cause, the podcast for people who want to make a difference in their community here in the Austin metropolitan area, and maybe sharpen their giving strategy along the way. This week's topic that matters, donor-advised funds. I may have said donor advisor funds a couple of times during the recording, and it is donor-advised funds, or a DAF. Think of a DAF as a way to give back and optimize your tax strategy. It's not just for celebrities or billionaires with foundations, but for people like us. I'm joined by Courtney Dickey, my co-host and resident nonprofit expert, and Piper Stuggy Nelson, executive director of I Live Here, I Give Here, who has a DAF of her own. She's breaking it down for us, what it is, how it works, and why it might just be the giving vehicle you didn't know you needed. Then we escape into life-changing work of foster angels of Central Texas. I sit down with Maggie Sheppard, Director of Communications and Partnerships, to talk about what it really means to step up for youth in foster care. Even though the government is supporting children impacted by the foster care system, the government requires a lot of administrative work and does not act quickly. That's where Foster Angels fills in the gap. Foster Angels works fast to make sure that children are not overlooked. From basic needs to meaningful experiences, their mission is to help children feel seen, supported, and valued. So join me as we explore what could be the most strategic and generous way to give, and stick around to hear how you can be the safety net for a young person who deserves one by supporting Foster Angels of Central Texas. I hope you enjoy. Today is another topic that matters that we have with Piper Stuggy Nelson, the executive director at I Live Here, I Give Here, that organizes Amplify Austin. Of course, we have Courtney Dickey, the now former president of the Junior League of Austin, who has had 15 years of experience in nonprofits. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. And this is a topic where usually I am not an expert, and then I usually have Courtney here. And I am so excited that Piper's sticking around for a few topics because we love her expertise.
Yes.
First, we are going to talk about DAFs, which are, for those that don't know, donor advisor funds, which Courtney and I talked about it momentarily during our celebrity foundations topic that matters, where people were using DAFs in different ways, celebrities, but we didn't really deep dive into it. And so, Piper, we're really excited for you to share your
I am a celebrity. You don't have to be a celebrity to have a DAF. This is pretty approachable.
I'm famous. It's really, that's why I have a DAF.
You know what, Courtney, when we talked about the ultra rich philanthropy list, you said anonymous.
I claimed the anonymous line. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a local girl on that list.
No.
Yeah. Catherine helps run the Mitchell Foundation.
Oh, phenomenal.
She does all this amazing work with how to get young people involved in philanthropy. And she's super amazing. Yeah, local girl on the list.
Michael and Susan Della, of course, are local and made that.
That's true.
That list, but they make it every, I think they make it every year.
Yeah.
For like decades.
Yeah.
Okay, so Piper.
Yes.
Tell us all about DAFs. When I think of a donor advisor fund or I think of a DAF, of course, we talked about celebrity foundations, so I think you've got to have a lot of money. But just maybe tell us what is a DAF and who could use it?
Yes. So a donor advised fund can be used by anyone. And in fact, anytime I meet with anyone, I encourage them to get a donor advised fund.
You don't have to be a celebrity.
No, I mean, anyone. All you need is, say you have $1,000 and you decide that $1,000 is something that you really want to dedicate to charitable giving. And so you take that $1,000 and you go to Schwab or Fidelity, or you go to the Austin Community Foundation or the Central Texas Community Foundation, and you open a donor advised fund. And what this is you putting that $1,000, this is just an example of $1,000. Into an account, and you immediately get the tax benefit on that $1,000. Once it's in that account, it can grow. It's got interest, but the only thing you can use it for at that point is charitable giving. So it's a beautiful sort of savings account that you got that tax benefit on.
Yeah.
But once it's there, it is just, for me, funny money that I get to use to give to the services, the nonprofits, the entities that I really care most about. So for me personally, 20 years ago, when my grandfather passed away, he gave me a little bit of money, and I took that and I put it in a DAF. I think it was $10,000.
Okay.
And so we put it in the DAF. And it grew. And I have to be honest, at first I didn't really know how to use it.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
I
say.
think lots of people let it sit there.
I bet they
which
do.
is something we can talk about later. Over the years, I've really learned how to use it. Right now, in this moment, I am using my DAF all the time. I am sending weekly emails to make grant requests because I feel like it's so important to give right now. I'll stop there and see if there are questions.
I have so many.
Okay.
Do you do all your charitable giving through the DAF?
95%.
Tell me about the other 5%.
Someone sends me a GoFundMe.
Yeah.
There's a family that's moving into an apartment and I give them $50. Kids like things for school. So my niece did a jump-a-thon. And so that money just came out of my checking account. Political giving. So political giving cannot go through your DAF. I believe strongly in women in politics. And so that money just is giving that I just do.
Oh, does it have to be a 501c3?
It does.
It does?
It does have to be a 501c3.
Okay.
And not only does it have to be a 501c3, but say you're going to a gala, you're buying a seat or you're doing a sponsorship.
Yes.
And so you can do that through your DAF as long as you are not including the amount of your meal. And so you have to say, okay, organization, how much is my meal worth? For example, Big Brothers Big Sisters said your meal is worth $100. I was like, that's going to be a good meal. So I subtracted that from the sponsorship amount and made the DAF gift for that amount.
All right. So then that goes to the other organizations. Yes. How easy are they making it for people to give through DAFs?
The nonprofits or the DAFs?
The nonprofits.
The nonprofits just get a check. They love DAFs. The only thing that is hard for nonprofits getting money from DAFs is that sometimes the information isn't all there.
Yeah.
I won't always have the address of the person who gave them money, or sometimes even the name. That's hard because I want to steward. I want to thank. I want to reach out and say, look what you did.
Yes.
So that's, for nonprofits, that's the only problem with the DAFs.
Okay. But let's take Amplify Austin.
Yeah.
How do I donate online to my favorite organization? Is this one of those offline payments? Because I just got the Junior League. So when we met that match, y'all, it was over $15,000 that we raised in 24 hours. I put that thing on my back and I just pushed that thing through.
But Austin entertains, right?
Yeah, and Austin, I know. Stephanie was there. I got on the stage, was like, I need $900. I'm just telling you, here's the QR code. That is all I need to get there.
This is where I asked Courtney afterwards. So we were in the back after she was hounding everyone for $900. And at the back, I was like, are they really not going to give it to you?
It's like, yes. And then 2 weeks ago, I got this lovely email from I Live Here saying, you have another $2,300 of offline funds that you received during Amplify. And does that mean some of it may have come through DAFs?
Yes, absolutely.
Isn't that
absolutely.
Interesting?
So on Amplify Austin Day, there's 2 ways you can do it.
It's very time intensive.
On Amplify Austin Day, Austin Community Foundation.
Love ACF.
And Central Texas Community Foundation.
Don't know them.
And Shalom Austin is part of ACF. But all 3 of those entities, you can just click that and then you can give money from your DAF. And so we then send a list to Austin Community Foundation saying, these 7 people say they want to have in the last hour said they want to make gifts from their DAFs. Do they have DAFs with you? Is there money in their DAF? Do you approve this? And so they approve it, but in real time. For the others, so Austin Community Foundation, Central Texas Community Foundation,
the partnership,
Austin, love it. For the other biggies, the Schwab, the Fidelities, the Vanguards, the other biggies, you have to make that gift a couple of weeks in advance, or at least a week in advance. You have to write them and say, okay, I'm making this gift. What I ask is that if you're doing it and it's too close to Amplify Austin Day, send me an email. Give me a picture of the receipt that you did it. We'll count it.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You want to count it, right?
Everyone on my staff right now is like, shut up.
Yeah, please. I'm like, you will do this manual one-off? This is amazing. Did everyone hear that?
No, but you should count it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
It was an effort that was amplified through Amplify Austin Day.
I did Leukemia Lymphoma Society Woman of the Year. And so same thing is I would go to people and they'd say, we'll write it through the DAFs, but there were all these, it was
timely.
Yes, because it is gamified.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, actually being Woman of the Year sounds really amazing. I want to do it. And so they put all of these incentives in front of you, but it's very time limited. And so these DAFs would have to say like, yes, I've requested it, but they send a check. It's not put in your credit card information.
That's right. The way that it works is I write to Schwab, which is where my DAF is.
I'm with Schwab too. And so that's why I'm asking, but I also love ACF.
I do love ACF. So I started with Schwab, and that's just why I stayed there. We were not in Austin at the time. So do your shopping. So I send Schwab a grant form that I do online and just say, here's the organization that I want to give it to. Here's the amount. Here's how I want it to be acknowledged. Here's their website so that they can go double check that it is a 501c3. They then issue that check. The whole thing takes about a week to 2 weeks. And so from the time that I submit that request to the time that the folks get their check can be about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So you just have to build that in when you're doing whatever you're
But
doing.
I look at it as like Venmo. So I use Venmo, and then if I want to get that money immediately, I have to pay a fee versus if I want to wait 1 to 3 days. I find that I would think nonprofits kind of like the check versus paying all these credit card fees and platform fees.
Oh,
Yeah. If you're not going to cover it. Yeah.
And also, oftentimes with DAFs, you don't actually know the money is coming. It's a
Nice.
lovely surprise.
It's a moment of delight. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple other things that because I did a little bit of reading of DAFs. Courtney knows this is how I come in. You can donate money, stocks, crypto. You can put anything. So it's not just like a cash savings account.
Into your DAF?
Yes, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
You can donate anything, other assets into your DAP, and you get the immediate tax deduction, right?
Yeah.
And then that money sits and can grow tax-free. It can even be invested.
Well, Schwab, I bet, invests it. Yeah.
And I did see, I think this is recent, the typical minimums to open up a DAF for Fidelity Charitable is $0 to open.
Great.
And it's a minimum of $50 per grant.
Yes.
Schwab, you have to have $5,000 to start.
Okay.
And then Vanguard, you have to have $25,000 to start.
Oh,
so that's
dear.
a little, yeah. Which is surprising.
Saucy.
Vanguard has cheap index funds. So I'm surprised that
Oh,
Vanguard was
right.
that
That's interesting.
expensive to start. But so Fidelity seems like a good place to start.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing to start. So pros and cons. We've already talked about taxes and giving, and we know that you only get that tax deduction if it's itemized.
Yes.
So this is how you can play. If the only thing that's making you go itemize and you want to maximize your charitable deductions, you could go, okay, this 1 year, I'm going to double my charity deductions. And next year, I'm not going to quote unquote give any to the DAF, but I'll still give to the charities. And then 1 year you're standardized, 1 year you're itemized. So you can start playing tax games with it because you get the deduction in the year that it goes into the DAF versus the year it goes to the charity.
Yeah.
But to your point, Piper, a lot of money is sitting in those DAFs. So much money. Y'all want to give a guess how much? I looked it up.
There was a seminar called Half My DAF, and there's a movement to get people to commit to giving away half of their DAF by the end of this calendar year because there's so much money. At least billions. I'm going to go with 250 billion.
What do you think?
Go with Piper.
Piper, how did you guess this? It's
251 billion.
You know, it's north of 250 billion.
I might have heard that in that seminar.
But that's
it might be in my head
phenomenal.
somewhere.
It might
But
be in your head somewhere.
That money is
Wild.
just sitting there.
What happens with estate planning?
One of the things that they talked about was being very clear about who gets your DAF when you pass.
Yeah.
Making sure that you have someone on your DAF. What do you call hereditary?
Yeah.
Beneficiary?
Beneficiary.
Thank you. Yeah. When those funds don't have anywhere to go, they just get rolled into another fund. So for example, at Fidelity, when those funds aren't spent and there's no one for them to go to, they go into the Fidelity Catalyst Fund, which is a Fidelity-run foundation that also has billions of dollars now. And they, as an entity, make the decision for where those funds
Because
go.
the problem
so it's still going to
is-
charity.
It has to still go to charity because that is the origin, and someone has received a tax benefit. They say, wow, you just no longer control it, or your estate no longer controls
Your
it.
estate no longer controls it.
Fidelity controls it.
Yeah, it says, unlike private foundations, which must give 5% per year, which I didn't know that. Y'all probably do. DAFs can hold funds indefinitely. And critics say that billions are sitting idle in these DAFs while nonprofits struggle. So right, I said the pro is that you can tax strategize. That's why wealthy people, of course, use these DAFs is to strategize for tax planning. There's 1.8 million individual DAF accounts, meaning a lot of people have DAFs, actually. That's quite a large number
I
of
think
DAFs.
it's a low
think.
number.
Yeah.
You think it's low?
Yeah.
How many households do we have?
I don't know.
Oh, like
don't know.
in America?
Yeah.
Many more than that.
No, 30 million? Is that still even, is that number stale?
That sounds probably, yeah.
That's people. So let's I don't know.
Doesn't it seem small?
I always thought DAFs were associated with the rich.
With high
So
wealth.
I
yeah.
actually thought
So
it
that
was a
seems the
lot.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
That's where I was coming at.
a
Not
great
how
point.
many people are giving,
Yeah,
how many
yeah.
people
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
have thought to go
Yeah.
open a DAF, which Piper is one of them. Good for you, Piper.
I am proud of how much I'm using it right now. I wrote the woman, I sent her cookies because she's having to process so many. Yes.
Precious.
Yeah, I've got an intermediary, but I sent her because I am sending her so many requests right now.
Fantastic.
Because every time I turn around, there is another organization that is struggling.
100%.
And I just feel like this is the time
funding
to use
has
that
been
money.
removed from them. Yep.
Does Schwab have a minimum that per grant?
Yes, it's either 50 or 100. I don't remember which. I tend to do $100 minimum only because it feels like if we're going through the paperwork process, it just makes sense to.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks for informing us on this one,
Thank
Piper.
you. Go get a DAF.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Escape into a Cause is sponsored by Nightlight Insurance Agency. You know how a nightlight gives you comfort and peace of mind in the dark? That's exactly what Nightlight aims to do. Guide you through life's uncertainties with personalized insurance for your home, auto, business, and more. Nightlight Insurance strives to provide its clients the best coverage at the best price without sacrificing on customer service. Here's what one client had to say. Nightlight was able to lower our car insurance significantly, answered all our questions, and returned our calls promptly. Very professional, would highly recommend. So it's no surprise Nightlight has a 5-star rating on Google. Nightlight also makes this podcast possible by covering production costs so all other sponsorship dollars and gifts can go directly to nonprofits and volunteers. And as part of their mission to give back, Nightlight proudly donates $1,000 to every nonprofit we interview. If you are a sponsor interested in giving back to our podcast, please find us on social media and let us know. Nightlight is an agency focused on personalized service and giving back. See how much you could save and how good it feels to have peace of mind by visiting nightlightinsurance.com. We're escaping into Foster Angels of Central Texas, and we have Maggie Sheppard, the Director of Communications and Partnerships. Hi, Maggie. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
You have been with Foster Angels for 10 years.
Yes.
So this is going to be a breeze for you. Well, I'm so happy to have you here. First off, let's just dive straight into it. What does Foster Angels do, and what is the community that you serve?
Our mission is really simple. We exist to improve the lives of children in foster care. So we work with children from birth until 17. Every single day we work with child advocates to make sure that those needs are fulfilled really quickly. And then we also work with young adults, 18 all the way up to 26, that have experienced foster care.
Great.
Yes.
I don't know if this is your tagline, but meeting needs quickly, changing lives forever.
Yes.
Which I really like. Amazing. And then what is the exact community you serve? I know you talked a little bit about how this is a sister organization and how you serve different communities in Texas. Would you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we serve Central Texas. We follow the state map. So we serve what the state refers to as Region 7, which is a collection of 30 counties. We're headquartered here in Travis County, but we actually serve up and down the I-35 corridor. So all the way up to Waco, just shy of New Braunfels, and then east and west into those more rural communities. And then we also have a sister organization that was founded in 1999, Foster Angels of South Texas. And they serve 19 counties, what the state refers to as Region 11. And they're headquartered in Corpus Christi. They serve all along the coastal bend into the Rio Grande Valley and then Laredo as well.
Great. And since then, this sister organization has been established to serve Central Texas in the same way.
Yes. To go all the way back to the beginning, our co-founder, Ted Oakley, didn't grow up in foster care, but he grew up knowing what it was like to go without on certain things. And so when he grew up and found success, he knew that there were children in his community in Corpus Christi that were having needs that were unmet. So he just went with the simplest answer of, I'm going to walk into Child Protective Services offices and ask them what they need. And that was met with a lot of, who is this crazy man trying to do nice things for us? But every single caseworker in that office did give him a list of things. And a lot of them, or probably all of them, were expecting to never see him again after giving him this laundry list of shoes, clothes, bedding, all these different things that they needed. But he went out and purchased all of it and then brought it back a couple days later and followed that model for a little while. But he actually has his successes in financial advising. So then he was then financially advised that this is not sustainable and you need to start a foundation. So he did that. That is how Foster Angels of South Texas was founded in 1999. And then his daughter, Sarah Smith, started her career here in Austin as a teacher. And she was noticing a lot of the same needs that she grew up watching her dad's foundation meet going unmet here in Austin. She called her dad and said, we need to start Foster Angels here in Central Texas. And so that's how we were founded. Foster Angels of South Texas is founded by Ted Oakley, and we are co-founded by Ted Oakley and his daughter, Sarah Smith, here in Central Texas. We've been here since 2010. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary this year, and we will have served our 50,000th child here in the next couple months. So by the end of the year, we'll have exceeded that 50,000.
Wow.
Mark.
Yeah, that's incredible. I really love that story. Recently, Courtney, Dickie, and we dived into a Topics That Matter, and that was altruism. And just the idea behind some people are skeptical when people come in and just want to do good, because then you're like, well, what's the aim? So I just liked that story of who's this crazy person coming and asking, like, how do I help? But that's a great story. And it sounds like it's really dear to their family. So that's amazing. Would like to switch gears into the impact and what you guys do.
What has traditionally been our main focus has been our Every Child, Every Day program. And that is created in the same spirit of walking into Child Protective Services and saying, what do you need? Now we have an online form. We work with child advocates. So we work with a lot of CPS workers, but we also work with CASA volunteers, attorneys, some judges, really any legal advocate in the life of a child in foster care can go onto our form, fill this out. I know at the Department of Family Protective Services, they have our form as a web shortcut, as an app on their phones, so that they can fill out our request form when they're just doing site visits and things like that. But really anyone can go onto this form and fill out and say what's needed for a child that they're working with and why. And then we fulfill that need within 48 hours. And that is really unique because unfortunately, the state has some resources, but are really limited in how many resources they have and then how quickly they can approve that. Just the nature of government, things take a while to get approved. And so really the whole reason we were started was just cut through red tape. What do kids need and how do we get it to them as fast as possible? How can we make the process of getting kids what they need as easy and as efficient as possible? And so that's that Every Child, Every Day program. A lot of what we do is providing gift cards so that kids can pick out their own stuff. Such a really important part of growing up. And then we do a lot of getting beds and bedding and all these different things just delivered to people's homes for them. That's the beauty of Amazon in a lot of ways, is it can get to them really fast. We have 8 focus areas. So that's clothing and personal items. Any housing requests can look like beds, dressers, can even look like rent assistance for older youth, tons of different basic needs. And then also what we really like to do is provide what we call life-enhancing opportunities. That can be summer camps, extracurricular activities, anything that kids want to try or be a part of. There can be a dollar amount associated with that, and we make sure that we pay for that.
Great. I feel like the value proposition of a lot of nonprofits is a couple things, twofold. One, they're filling in the gap that the government can't fill. That seems to be very much the case for foster care and homelessness in a lot of sectors, elderly, veterans. But it also has the ability to quickly identify the needs and fill those needs. Not only effectiveness, but the efficiency aspect of that. And so y'all are really filling in that gap, which is great to hear.
So far this year, we have served 1,100 children just through that program, just through the Every Child, Every Day. And most of those, I wish I had the numbers right in front of me, but it sounds like you might. But
no, yeah, over 400 are ongoing services.
Exactly.
Over 420 children are providing ongoing services. And this is only the first half of the year.
Exactly.
Lovely. And then to your point, I know that there were some quotes that I really enjoyed reading, but the key takeaway is that there have been social workers that have attested to this, that they're discouraged by how difficult the process is to obtain resources for these children and all the administrative work required to even request the assistance. So let's not even talk about eligibility, but just even go through everything to say, hey, raise your hand, we need help. Right.
Yeah, I've made some friends who work at the state over this 10 years I worked at Foster Angels. And a lot of them refer to like trying to find what their kids on their caseload need, or even just the families need, so that a placement can stick together. It feels like you're on a never-ending scavenger hunt, to use their words. Caseworkers, in my opinion, have one of the hardest jobs. It's a life or death job. You have children's livelihoods in your hands at your job, which is a really heavy load. And so you're also trying to find, how can I make sure that they get back to school clothes because their caregiver is on a limited income and I don't know that they're going to be able to get new clothes for the first day of school, but also they've grown out of their clothes from last year. And so I don't know how to make sure that this happens. At the core of what we're doing, we're trying to make sure that these caseworkers have an easy way to get kids what they need, so that every other part of their job might be really hard. And I don't know that there's much we can do about that. But what we can do is make sure that they can fulfill these needs as quickly and easily as possible.
I love that. Okay, so every child, every day, birth to 17.
Yes.
And then you have Guide to Thrive.
Yes. So probably 5 or 6 years ago, we were noticing a lot of requests coming in from older youth. And so we've always served a pretty wide range of ages, but we didn't separate it from our Every Child, Every Day program. We noticed that when older youth were putting in requests, they had needs that were just a little more involved. For example, I didn't get as much hours at my job this week. I don't have as much money on my paycheck as a result. I am unable to make my rent. I'm now facing eviction. I don't know what to do. I'm in fight or flight. I'm freaking out. That is a huge problem. And so we can come in as foster angels and we can help them pay their rent, but also the rent is still due on the next first of the month.
And we're not talking about 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds.
Right.
We're talking about that young youth that are just out of high school, 18 to 26. What do we say? Your prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed till you're 25.
Yes.
And these are children who may not have had the most stability or a permanent home and that really need that support and guidance coming out of high school. This is a really great program for those young adults.
Yeah, they're just trying to figure it out and they might not really have an example to follow. We're there to not only get them out of these crisis situations, but about 5 or 6 years ago, we got grant funding to hire on a licensed social worker that can, yes, fill those needs, but can also sit down with them and talk about what are we going to do ongoing. Let's sit down and look critically at our job situation. Do we need to get a new job? How can we advocate for ourselves at our job to get more hours? What are some budgeting tools? Because it also just might be budgeting. Lord knows. I called my dad when I was in my early 20s, just like, I messed up. And he was thankfully there for me. But these kids don't necessarily have that all the time. We need to step up and provide that for them. So we got funding for that position and then built a whole program around it called Guide to Thrive. I use rent because it's one of the largest categories in what we do for these older youth, but we're also helping them with textbooks if they're in school. We're helping them with job uniforms. We help a lot with deposits with apartments, and we also help them purchase their first car if that's needed, or just help them get bus passes so that they can get to and from where they need to be. We call that program Guide to Thrive, and it's specifically tailored at trying to help children and young adults who have experienced foster care get on their feet and be able to thrive in independence.
I love that. I ask that anyone that I'm talking with that has ever said, you know, I want to give a hand up, not a handout. I don't want anyone to be dependent. And I'd ask those people, what help did you receive when you were a young adult? Or if you're a parent, what help are you wanting to give your own child, right? Not everyone has those safety nets. And I think it's so critical for a young adult to thrive to have somewhat of a safety net. And that's what y'all are providing, which I think is beautiful. And then y'all have served 191 adults for the first half of the year with rent assistance for 40, and that's compared to 48 in all of 2024. And what I saw is the trends in your impact report is that the need is increasing.
We can attest the need increasing to a lot of different things, but I think something that's pretty important to talk about in this specific year is that public support, and by public support, I mean state government support, there's a widening gap there because of the loss of certain programs and things like that. Someone has to fill in that gap, and we largely have to take that up at Foster Angels, especially obviously with this population. And so I think things like affordable housing is harder to access. Things like SNAP and WIC are harder to access. These programs might still be there, but we're dealing with 22, 23-year-olds. We try to work with these young adults to make sure they're accessing all of these resources that are available to them. But if it's really difficult, it's really difficult. And everything else is really difficult. We try to fill in that gap in a way that's easy to access.
Yeah, and these programs are so important. So I had my son when I was 19, and my husband and I, we've been together since I was 16, so I'm very lucky in that way. But we were in the Bay Area, and we used WIC for a year. I just think these programs are so good, especially when you're a young adult, to help support you when things are crazy. Like you are being thrown into adulthood. Maybe you're trying to do work and school. Maybe you're trying to figure out your career. What do you want in life? And in my case, we were having a baby. And I know the statistics based off of previous interviews, foster care children are more likely to be young parents and are more likely to be homeless. The stats are pretty unfortunate when you look at this segment of the population. And there's almost 30,000 children in foster care in Texas, is what Google has recently told me. Programs like yours are so fantastic, and I really love that. You said there is fundraising. You do not receive government funding.
Correct.
It's a lot of private donations and donors stepping up.
We very intentionally have never taken government funding. Anyone who's ever applied for a government grant knows it's really hard. It's really complicated. And also, once you receive that funding, it's a lot of paperwork. And these paper trails and paperwork can sometimes slow down your process. Not all the time, but sometimes it can really slow down your process of providing aid. We have always very intentionally not taken government funding so that we can keep our programs very nimble. However, obviously, with the loss of specifically federal funding for a lot of nonprofits this year, one, as we just talked about, the gaps are widening and we have to step up. So there is a larger need for our funding. However, there's also our like-minded organizations that have gotten this really important government funding are now also having to ask for the private funding. It's just wild out here. But yes, we've always very intentionally not taken government funding just to keep our process as simplified as possible.
And you have a few fundraising events. We'll dive a little bit more into the luncheon, but the two main events that you have each year that people can show up, can you speak to those?
Yes. Upcoming on September 17th, we have our biggest fundraiser of the year. It's called our Shining Stars Luncheon. We honor 3 extraordinary youth that have experienced foster care with our Resilience Award. So you'll learn about them. You'll learn about everything they've overcome. And it's 2 young people and also a caregiver caring for her young godchild that she is actually working to adopt. So you'll see a couple sides of what foster care can look like because it truly does look different for every single child and situation, and just learn about all that they've had to overcome and just celebrate that for them and see them in that way of you've overcome so much and that's a real thing that you've done. That's a really great part of the luncheon. We also are featuring a keynote speaker, Ed Hajim, who actually grew up in foster care but has now gone on to see great success on Wall Street and beyond. Our co-founder, Ted Oakley, is actually going to interview him, and we'll see that at the luncheon. That'll be really special. It's just a really great program to really learn about our mission for about an hour and a half on a Wednesday. It's on September 17th at the JW Marriott. We are selling tickets online. I'm really excited just to have this event and raise some money. We have some really high goals, and all of the funds raised at this event help us continue to say yes and say yes very quickly. We don't have to wait on funding because of our community's generous support right now, but we have to continuously be asking for support in order to say yes so quickly. So it's a really important event. It is our largest fundraiser of the entire year. So we're just really excited.
Yeah. And other topics that matter that Courtney and I dived into is whether galas are effective or expensive. They are expensive, but whether it's a gala, a luncheon, more of a casual event to get donors out, the bottom line is that this is oftentimes the event that allows the organization to sustain their work throughout the year. I used to be skeptical of some of these events. And the more I dived into it and the more I saw the results that an effective nonprofit, how they organize these events, it's very meaningful.
Yes. What I find really impactful about my job is I make sure that our mission is understood by every single person who comes to any of our events. That includes the luncheon, that can include truly anything. I don't want even someone coming to a volunteer event. I don't want them to think, I just filled a backpack today and that's what I did. I want them to think like I filled a backpack for kids in foster care who might not otherwise have school supplies. When on the first day of school, a teacher says, get out a piece of paper, the child I packed the backpack for today won't have to feel embarrassed by having to ask for a piece of paper and a pencil on the first day of school. That is like cornerstone to my personal mission at my job, is to make sure that every single person that comes into contact with us isn't just saying, oh, I went to a lunch at the JW today. I went to a lunch today and I learned for an hour and a half about the struggles that kids in foster care face in our community. And I made a donation to support that, to make sure that things can just be a little easier for those kids. And I totally understand the conversation about our galas. What did you say?
Expensive or effective?
Expensive or effective.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's fair. What I will say is that these galas and luncheons are the best opportunity for our supporters who know our mission, who value it, who probably could just write us a check and not do the luncheon, but they can invite their friends who don't know our mission yet and who might also get really involved. It would be so great if everyone just wrote us a check and we never had to do anything for it. What a wonderful world we would live in if my job was just me counting money all day. Wow, amazing. But that's not the reality. We have to share our mission in order for people to feel compelled to support any cause. And so you have to tell that story and you have to make your case of why you should support this important issue that's in your community. And these luncheons and galas really are the opportunity to do that, which is why everyone should come to the Shining Stars Luncheon.
It sounds like a good time. And Piper Segi-Nelson from I Live Here, I Give Here that organizes Amplify Austin Day. Their team is really big on helping nonprofits understand how important it is to steward your donors. And that includes some annual event so that everyone feels connected to all the impact that's happening. And I know there's also a Toys for Teens that occurs. And I think that's something that everyone can even do remotely. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Toys for Teens is my favorite time of year at Foster Angels. It's our holiday drive. And so for us, the holidays start really in October, which I know people have opinions about putting Christmas trees up too fast and stores putting out decor too soon. In order for us to run an effective holiday drive, this is the way it goes. So around October, we'll start working with caseworkers and all of our child advocates to say, who are the teenagers that you work with that could really just use a good holiday, that could just use getting everything they asked for, that just needs that extra boost of joy, especially at the holidays, which can be a really emotional and confusing time for some kids in foster care. And so we specifically work with teens because teens are at this point in their lives if you're in foster care or not, where it's really easy to feel left out and it's really easy to feel isolated. And a lot of that can come with coming back from Christmas break and all of your friends in your class are talking about the new Nike shoes that they got, or, oh, I played this brand new video game all break. And oh, what did you get? And I know that's so materialistic and annoying and not like the reason for the holidays, but it's also just reality. And we work with these kids to get their wish list in October. And again, it's one of those moments where you're filling out a form and you're like, no one's going to get this stuff from me. They're teenagers. They're asking for Nike tennis shoes. They're asking for gaming systems. This is how I knew Uggs were back, by the way, is a couple of years ago, all of a sudden, there was like 10 pairs of Ugg boots in our office. And I was like, oh, I guess this is what the kids are doing again. Love to see it come back.
All of that is coming back. It's a wild time.
Exactly.
And then like Sephora, I'm sure is a big hit for the girls.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to see like what the kids are asking for year to year. But we then post those wish lists onto our website about the first week of November. We're so fortunate. Our community is amazing. They go on our website and they sponsor those wish lists in full. You can sponsor those one of two ways. You can sponsor it and say, I'm going to go buy everything I love to shop. I love them all. And you can do that. And then you bring all of those brand new gifts to us unwrapped at the end of November or first week of December. Or you can just say, we will provide about what this wish list costs. And then you can make a donation to us, which is tax deductible donation. And then our volunteers will go out and purchase those for you. And then we will wrap them in about the first week of December. And then caseworkers come and pick everything up so that it can be under the tree December 25th. What's really special about this holiday drive is we're working with teenagers who, again, have complicated feelings around the holidays, who probably are like, this is for the little kids. I'm not going to get anything. I'm surely not going to get anything that I actually want. But then waking up and actually seeing the gifts that you asked for underneath the tree is a really fun thing to think about, just because teenagers, especially I envision like the teenage boy who's just like a little too cool for school. And then just like totally seeing their face light up because they got what they were hoping to get and might not have had that experience yet. I love that drive. It's really special. It's fun to see what the kids are asking for. It's a really great way to get in the holiday spirit. And there's tons of volunteer opportunities as well as donor opportunities. And that's really fun. And it starts right after the luncheon, honestly.
Yeah. Great. Love those types of situations around the holidays. That maybe this is like a family or a cul-de-sac thing where you can say, hey, everyone pitch in, Venmo, let's do this. Let's go to Target together. All of our kids can run around and start writing on a list of things that they want. And at the same time, we'll together say, let's go get this thing and pitch in for someone else. I don't know. I feel like you can always make giving a fun thing, especially with youth and especially with neighbors, and it brings community together. So I love that.
Yeah.
And then I do want to hear some stories.
Yes.
Can you share maybe a story that will connect listeners?
Yeah. I have worked at Foster Angels for 10 years. I have two stories that are close to my heart. Several years ago, we had a young woman that we honored at our luncheon, and we had a donor who wanted to provide her with a insane back to school shopping spree to get back to school clothes. I took her to Barton Creek Mall and we went into Forever 21, which I'm pretty sure is about to not exist. But I also wasn't fully aware of how impactful of an experience this was. I was like, girl, you have all this money, go get whatever you want. And she was super hesitant and just grabbing different things off of the rack. And I could just tell was like a little timid about it. So then I started grabbing stuff when I asked her what her size was and she didn't know. And I was like, okay, so let's just take this t-shirt and these pants and let's take them in a couple different sizes. And let's go figure that out. That seems like a good starting place. So we did that. And it hit me that she had always just taken what was given to her. She had never really had this experience of choice. And she had never really thought about her size because she was just going to make whatever was given to her work. We got to figure out her size. And then also over the several hours that we spent in that Forever 21, she got to also decide, well, no, I don't really like that shirt. And I think I want to go more this direction. And just seeing, again, this 17-year-old girl developing her personal style, unfortunately, in just one day at Forever 21 was really cool to see, was particularly moving to me. She's also a young woman who I could tell when she was coming out and showing me the outfits did not have a bra that fit her. And so I asked her if she had ever been fitted for a bra before, and she said no. So 17 years old, had never been fitted for a bra before. So we purchased what we purchased at Forever 21. And I said, we're going to go to a fitting and then we'll buy you a couple of undergarments. And so we did that at Nordstrom. She got her size. She got to try on the bra. And then when all was said and done, she came out with tears in her eyes, saying that she did not realize that she could be this comfortable. She thought every woman, this was like our cross to bear as a woman, was just walking around so uncomfortable wearing bras that don't fit, which is really heartbreaking, but I think speaks to not only her experience, but it speaks to a lot of these kids that we're serving experience. She deserves not only to be comfortable, but she deserves to know, to ask, I am uncomfortable. Can you help me be comfortable? So that story obviously sticks with me. And it's a really special opportunity that I got to have with that young woman.
What a great opportunity. Not only for you to give and be able to experience that with her, she's going to remember that, no doubt, for the rest of her life. And the reason I say that is my childhood was very feast or famine. When it was famine, there was no shopping and no clothes or anything. I remember two things to this day. One was my uncle, who spent a lot on his daughter, right? I went to the mall with them and I was just like, yep, just another time at the mall. I don't get to buy anything. And he finally was like, okay, do you want a pair of Sperry's or a pair of True Religion jeans? And I swear to this day, I tried holding on to those jeans for as long as I could. I remembered that as if it was the biggest shopping spree of my life.
Yes.
And I swear that moment, it's just so funny how grateful I felt. Like, oh my gosh, he's going to buy this for me. And then one other time was we were evicted from a place. We're staying in a hotel, didn't have clothes. My clothes are getting dirty. And a teacher, his girlfriend, was like, hey, where are you staying? And I was like, the Ramada Hotel. And she just took me out and got me an outfit. I'll remember that to this day. It really resonates. If there's one thing I want to do before I leave this earth, it's definitely find a few young women who want to have that shopping experience and pay that back, because she'll remember that forever. And so I think that's a really special experience that you gave her.
Yeah, thank you. It sticks with me, honestly, all the time.
I love that so much. Okay, I do ask everyone to give a good brag. And for those that don't know, it's really just a way for my guests to say something that they are proud of that they've done recently, not connected to the nonprofit, but it's really to encourage people to speak loudly. We talked about altruism and how everyone needs to do things quietly, but I think it's contagious when people are doing anything that's good, whether that's being a good parent, that's volunteering, donating. Is there anything that you can speak to recently?
I know this was really hard for me to think about, but I am a big fan of just like donating $20 to the GoFundMe. I was just thinking, there are people who I haven't spoken to in a decade, but we're Facebook friends, and they will post about a hard time, which I know is hard for them to do because it's hard for me to do. And we were friends a decade ago and have just grown apart. But I know it's hard for people to post, I need help. In a lot of cases, horrible thing has happened to me, or I'm really trying to have this really amazing thing happen to me, but I just don't have the funds in order to come out of whatever the issue is. So I'm just a really big fan of donating to the GoFundMe because it's really hard for people to ask. I think that's something that I learned from foster angels is a lot of the kids we work with are like, so thankful for us helping them. And we're like, just ask, it's okay. But there's sometimes a shame associated with that. And I don't think that there should be. I recently donated to a friend's GoFundMe. I hadn't spoken to them in a really long time, and they're going through a really hard thing and they need to ask for help. And so I'm just a big proponent of donate to the GoFundMe.
That's great. Courtney and I have talked also about like money and how do you plan for giving and do you diversify? Do you put it all into one? There's all these strategies that you can go, or you could have no strategy and just be like, when something speaks to me. But one thing I mentioned was that I'm trying to be more intentional about here's my set amount, and then here's if a GoFundMe, or if the Kerr County floods, or a disaster, something pops up, a friend needs help. So there's this little like chunk of change that I'm thinking about those one-offs. That's great that you're thinking about others in that way. Yeah.
That's a really great way to budget too. I'm going to put that away.
Yeah. Well, for many years, we were very last minute where I was like, oh my gosh, we haven't donated anything. It's December 30th. And I feel like a terrible person.
No.
So I put my kids in front of YouTube videos of nonprofits and been like, so where do you want to donate? I've had a couple of embarrassing years like that. So as I'm getting older, I'm getting wiser. Now let's switch gears so that listeners can learn how can they show up for Foster Angels. You've already talked about a lot of this, and that's donate.
Friend of Foster Angels is a new initiative this year. It's really great for us to help plan for the future. And if you plan to give $1,000 or more to our cause, we ask that you do it on a 3-year basis. So you just sign up for a 3-year commitment. You can pay monthly or annually, and then you become a friend of Foster Angels. So when you commit to this 3-year gift, it helps us plan for our budget for the 3 years to come, which helps us know, okay, we have this much that we absolutely know is coming in. And so how can we plan for growth and all of these things? And when I say plan for growth, things like this year where the need has gotten larger and there's nothing we can really do about that. And these are really important gifts. We started it this year. And so there are different levels. I think it's $1,000, $2,500, and $5,000. This year, if you want to be one of our founding members, you can give a $15,000 one-time gift. And there are different perks that come along with that. You are guaranteed a volunteer spot at any of our drives. These things fill up. And so you are guaranteed that you will be able to volunteer with us during our annual drives. You are also given 2 tickets to our Shining Stars Luncheon, and you're also getting quarterly reports from our executive director that are different than just our newsletter that goes out monthly. Those are the perks of becoming a friend of Foster Angels. Impacting our mission year over year is what I would say is the biggest perk.
Right. And that's $1,000 per year?
Yes, that's the starting. And like I said, you can pay $1,000 every July 31st, or over the next 3 years, you can commit to the gift monthly. So at that $1,000 level, I think it comes out to $87 a month.
Yeah, and that's nothing if you're living in Austin.
For a budgeter, it feels it feels very manageable.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so donate and recurring donations. I can't say that enough for nonprofits. That helps them plan.
It's our favorite donation. Yeah. All of our donations are our favorites. I don't have favorites, but if I did, it would be the recurring.
Absolutely. Unrestricted recurring funds. We have the luncheon, which you've dived into. The luncheon, again, that is on September 17th at the JW Marriott. So be there.
Yes.
You'll really be able to lean in and learn all about Foster Angels. Bring a friend.
Yes.
Go to it. And then the holiday drive, which you love, the Toys for Teens, first week in November. Around that time, donation list goes live. Go and sign up for a wish list and help a teen.
Yeah, you can also just volunteer. Yeah. There's so many ways to get involved in that. You can, again, rally your office, your block, anyone to all come together to do a wish list. But yeah, tons of ways to get involved at that at any level.
Great. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
We're so fortunate that we have already gotten a new office space that's largely donated. We got a website redesign donated this year by a creative firm in Chicago, Week of the Website. They're amazing. We're really blessed that we've gotten a lot of these big needs fulfilled this year. But another big need came up this morning in a meeting, so I wanted to mention it. So we are on the lookout for a van. We deliver these big mattresses a lot, and we have a volunteer who has a really big car. For others, it's really difficult. So anyways, we're looking for a van, like a Sprinter van with no seats.
Yeah, you need a Foster Angels Central Texas van.
We need a big
for furniture, mattresses,
exactly.
all that stuff for that Guide to Thrive program.
Exactly. So we're looking for a van. If anyone has a Sprinter van that they're just not using, that's crazy, but let me know.
I love that. So either donate a van or donate money and say, hey, I want this to go towards the van. Okay, well, thank you so much, Maggie.
Yes,
it was such a pleasure talking. I love what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Foster Angels is a reminder that impact doesn't have to be flashy, but it should be fast, specific, and personal. When a kid in foster care needs a mattress or clothes that fit or a bus pass to get to work, Foster Angels steps in and they step in fast. They don't wait for red tape or approval. They fill the gap often within 48 hours because that kind of speed can change a child's day or the future. Go to their website. You can see social workers' testimonials to the impact Foster Angels is making in our community. I love chatting with Maggie Sheppard. Her energy, her compassion, and her stories make it clear why this work matters. From backpacks and mattresses to prom dresses and dorm room essentials, Foster Angels make sure kids and young adults in foster care feel safe, supported, and seen. If you want to earn your good bragging rights, here's how. Volunteer. Show up for Toys for Teens that kicks off in November, and even sooner, attend the Shining Stars Luncheon on September 17th at the JW Marriott. Don't miss it. And remember, a van is needed for moving mattresses and furniture. Reach out if you can help in any way. Also, as always, you can donate, and since you're a strategic giver now, use the DAF while you're at it. All the details are at fosterangelsctx.org. And hey, do you want a shot at Texas Stars hockey tickets? Show up for nonprofits like Foster Angels, share it on your social, and tag us at Escape Into a Cause or use #GoodBrag and DM us. Or sign up at Escape Into a Cause to get matched with a cause that fits you. You'll be entered to win. The Texas Stars hockey season begins October 10th. Big thanks to Nightlight Insurance Agency for making this episode possible and for supporting the nonprofits that support our communities. Thanks to Todd Thompson for editing and mixing, Graham Thompson and Jaden Dyer for the music, Corey McCain at Just Push Record Studios, and Ashlyn O'Neill for digital content. Next week, we're escaping into Austin Creative Reuse, a nonprofit turning discarded materials into treasure-inspiring creativity while keeping thousands of pounds of waste out of landfills. You're going to love it. Hope to see you next week as we escape into a cause.